Welcome to the Body Talk Podcast. I am your confidence coach, Tabitha Sweeney. Next to me is boudoir photographer Jillian Barrile. Together, we are building an empire rebelling against diet culture and the insecurity that it creates among women. This show is raw, real, and vulnerable, showcasing all things related to body, confidence, self-worth, and the power you are about to step into, if you choose. I do want to give you all a warning that today's episode may be slightly triggering. So if you find yourself triggered, I want you to know it's okay to turn off the episode, to pause it, to skip it, to come back to it later or not to. There is no wrong. The most important thing is that you do what you need to protect your health and well-being. Welcome back, lovies. So by now, I am sure that you know that Roe v Wade has been overturned after 50 some years of federal protection. It has been ruled unconstitutional to federally protect a woman's right to her body and her future. And I have extremely strong opinions in regards to this. I'm hoping that I can get my thoughts and my words out the way I want to. Because if they're too loaded with the emotion that I'm actually feeling inside, I don't feel that they actually have an impact, and I want to have an impact. So here's the thing. I have so many thoughts right now, and it's impossible to get all of my thoughts out in one episode. It's also impossible because each thought takes us into a different aspect. So they don't, while they are all one idea, they don't all necessarily fit together that way. You need several puzzle pieces to see the whole picture, right? And sometimes the puzzle piece that's in the left corner and the piece that's in the top right corner, if you were just looking at pieces, they don't look like they go together, but yet they do. So I say that to say I'm thinking about this in so many realms and in so many aspects and from so many ways, and my heart is shattered into a million pieces. But I want to start by saying this. As a rule, when it comes to politics, I tread very lightly in the middle of the ground as far as what I get loud about. I don't get loud about every single thing I think. I tread very lightly because I own a business. I tread very lightly because I want to remain professional. But I also think there are points and times when something is shown to us and it is our duty to get loud. And it is our duty to say to others, if I will agree to disagree about a lot of things, this is not one of those things. This falls into my key core morals. And I am simply unwilling. If you support the other side, I am simply unwilling to agree to disagree on that, and we need to part ways. So I understand I am going to lose followers. I am going to lose money. I'm going to lose business. I'm okay with that because I truly feel like one of the greatest things about the United States is our ability to know who we are choosing to do business with. So I am choosing to do business and to set my business up to do business with those who align with me. I do not believe Roe versus Wade is a religious fight. I say that as somebody who goes to church on Sunday mornings. My children go to Catholic school. I was born and raised very strict Catholic. I do not believe Roe versus Wade is a religious fight. I do not believe what I personally would do or decide has any bearing on the importance that Roe versus Wade holds for this country. I cannot tell you what I would do. In my mind, I think I would never choose abortion. I don't know that though. And do you know why I don't know that? Because I have never, ever been put in a situation where I even had to think about that decision. I thank God for that very, very often, even more often now than I did when I was younger. I thank God that I have not had any personalized experience. I am out of words for my heartbreak. But here's the most important thing that I think we need to realize. I've seen a couple posts from people on Facebook and Instagram that say things to the effect of staying positive. And while I believe wholeheartedly in positivity, I also believe that life is not rainbows and unicorns. It's just not. And right now, this decision is not rainbows and unicorns. There's nothing positive about it, and there is no way to find or make positive out of it. It doesn't exist. And in those instances, what I believe is it is up to us to get really, really fucking loud and to have the conversations that nobody else wants to have. So if it's not bad enough that we have now deemed abortion to be illegal, we are encouraging tattling. We are telling these women that if they travel to another state, when they get home, they will be a criminal and the doctor who is doing the procedure will be prosecuted. The thing I keep seeing and something that keeps popping up is a common thread by ignorant people is this idea that, well, if you're willing to have sex, you have to be willing to have the consequences. You know what I have to say to that? Fuck you. That's what I have to say. So I want to know right now, why do you think that it's okay for men to have sex with as many women as they want and never be called a bad name, never be called a whore, never be called a slut, never be victim shamed? And yet women don't get that same respect. If you're saying if you're willing to have sex, then be willing to have the consequences. I have several things to say. One, I know several people who have had sex, who have been on birth control, who were still wearing their patch when they found out they were pregnant. So we shouldn't be on birth control and have sex because we need to be ready for the consequences. How are we holding these men responsible? All of this is out to punish and threaten the woman's livelihood, but what are we doing about the fathers of these babies? We're forcing women to have babies and we're forcing women to become mothers, but we're not forcing fathers to do jack shit. Why do you think it's okay that men get to be sexual beings and women are only there to pleasure and serve and satisfy men? Because every single person who is stating that fact, that's what you're putting out there. You're perpetuating that old myth and you're making women second class. Whether you mean to or not, that's what you're doing. Women have always been blamed for everything that the man does when it comes to sex. A man rapes a woman and yet we blame her because her skirt was too short, so she must have wanted it. Girls wear tank tops to school. They get sent to the nurse's office to put on these disgusting, awful t-shirts so everybody knows that they dress like a slut today because their shoulders are distracting boys. And you know what? It's all true because, and we know this is true because we watched Brock Turner. There was video of him raping that poor, unconscious soul of a being behind that dumpster. And the judge said, we don't want to ruin his future. What about her future? Are you guys even ready? Are you all ready to have a conversation where we have a panel of women up here who tell you how many times they had sex in their life because they felt like that's what they were supposed to do? Maybe they weren't raped, but you know what? When you go back and listen to their story, maybe they were. Maybe they didn't physically say stop because they found it easier and less terrifying to just go along with it. Are you guys ready for that conversation? Are you ready for the conversation about the girls who wake up and don't remember the night before at all? Happened to me once. Thank God I was with somebody who I knew and trusted. And so in that regard, I was safe, but I am willing to put any amount of money. And to this day, it has been 20 some years. I am still willing to put that my drink was roofied that night by somebody in the bar who did not know I was there with a guy. And it was not it. I will put the disclaimer out there. I do not in any way, shape, or form think I was roofied by the guy that I was with. I had been seeing him for a while and do not think that was the case. I think him and I were in opposite ends of the bar after work, and a tourist had put something in my drink. And what I think happened was they didn't realize I was with somebody else who was going to take care of me. But I woke up with zero memory. How many women don't have the happy story that I have? And you want to say, why didn't you go to the police? Because it's embarrassing, because it's degrading, because they look at you and they say to you, what proof do you have? They want to take you and do an exam on you. And then they say to you, well, did you put your drink down? What were you wearing? And we scrutinize our girls instead of teaching our boys not to put shit in their drinks. Do you see the difference, yet overturning Roe v. Wade allows the states to put bans against rape and incest and other traumatic clauses. They can ban against that. If you are not somebody who has lived and experienced that, you do not get to make a decision. You do not get to have an opinion. I do not get to have an opinion. I have been through some scary shit. There was a night I remember, and it was the Kavanaugh hearing that brought it up, and it triggered something in me that it was a memory I had suppressed so far down that I honestly didn't even remember. About a night that I went on a date with a man who said we just had to stop at his house really quick. I think he said we had to let the dog out. And I said, okay. And the next thing I knew, he had me pinned on the bed. He was on top of me, holding down my arms. I couldn't move. I didn't know where I was, as in it was an area of town I wasn't familiar with. I remember scanning the room, looking to see if there was anything I could grab. Not that I could have, because he had me like by my wrists is where he was like pinning me down from. And he was biting me so hard that when I finally got out of there, I had bite marks all over me. The only reason I wasn't raped that night is because his roommate came home. That's the reason I wasn't raped. Do you know that in 20 some years, up until the Kavanaugh hearing, there were only 2 people in the entire world who knew that? 2 people who knew that story. The worst part was I had to go to work the next day and look at the guy because we worked together. When I tell you that this is about more than religion, this is about more, I am so unsettled by this turn of events. I'm so unsettled by the fact that this was released and then Clarence Thomas said that his next motives are to remove access to birth control and reverse gay marriage rulings. So don't tell me that this is about babies. Don't tell me that this is about religion. And if you are a truly religious person, a God-loving person who reads and believes in the Bible and does everything you can to act according to scripture and what has been taught to you, then I truly believe you are on the side of women and my side right here. And I will tell you why. Because you understand that God gave humans free will. That is how much he loves us. He gave us free will. And what anyone else does, the decision they make is between them and God. Who they sleep with, whether they have an abortion or not, that's not for me to judge. That's not for us to judge. So for anybody who's giving me a religious argument here, I don't want to hear it, because I consider myself to be an extremely spiritual and religious person. But I will not stand when religion uses God as a cop-out. And that's what you're doing right now. You are walking back on our freedom for years. And the only thing we can do is continue to have conversations that men are not ready to hear, that our mothers know, but are not ready to hear. That women are sexual beings and have every right to have, to desire, to want sex without wanting a baby. Can I just say that? That shouldn't need to be said, but can I say that? If you truly believe a woman only should be having sex if she desires to have another baby, you are part of the problem. And I refuse to be quiet. And I refuse to continue to just go along with this. There's nothing that we can do in terms of, we can't change the law, but we can stand tall. We can make space for all of the women right now who need it. All of the women right now who this law has sparked such serious PTSD that they are retreating so far within themselves, they will never be the same. All of the women who right now know that they can cross the border and they would be looked at as a criminal. Another argument I keep hearing is that, well, I don't know what all the women in New York are complaining about because nothing in New York has changed. One, that's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard. And two, that shows you have absolutely no empathy. So you probably should be checked to see if you're a sociopath. Yeah, I said it. Life is not just about us. Did your mother never teach you that life exists outside of the bubble that you're in? So yes, I live in New York. I am also well past the point of having another child. I've had an ablation. I physically cannot get pregnant. Or I shouldn't say that. Actually, I shouldn't say that. You know what I should say? I should say if I were to get pregnant, the pregnancy would need to be aborted for my own life. But now in other states, that would be illegal. Because when I had my medical procedure and I had the ablation, I knew I was done having children. But if that happened, I would be considered a criminal in other states. Yet trying to have that baby would not only certainly kill the baby, it would also kill me. So nobody wins. So tell me how this is a better option. Also, life is about learning. It's not just about us. It's about standing up for the people who are being done wrong. Have we learned nothing over the past several years with Black Lives Matter? It's about being an ally to those who are being persecuted. And I will stand with every single woman because it doesn't matter what I can do here. It's about what's happening in the rest of this country. That's what it's about. So I will stand here and say that I'm willing to put my life on the line, that I am willing to go to jail to help another woman who needs help and support, that I am willing to take your phone call at 4:00 in the morning because you are shaken to your core and you don't know what to do, that you need help problem solving. Because here is the deal. Making abortion illegal isn't going to stop it. It's going to make it unsafe. So not only all these pro-lifers, and I'm using air quotes because you can't see me, pro-lifers who want to cry about the baby's life, but they're willing to risk the mother's life. And if we really want to do the pro-life argument, then where the fuck is the government after that baby is born? Who's paying my maternity leave? Who's helping me pay for daycare, to buy food? Who's supporting me and this baby that you're demanding I have? Where is our mental health care to come in to not only help the mother, but then help this child who now has a mother who resents them? See, you guys are all so caught up in the quote unquote murder of undeveloped cells. And I say that in such a way because there is a reason that there is a 13-week cutoff or a 15-week cutoff in states. But at 15 weeks, that baby is not viable outside of the mother's womb. It is not viable. There is not a mother alive. There is nobody who has been pregnant for 24 weeks and then walking in for a late term abortion. This is where all of the facts are completely wrong. The women getting late term abortions that every Republican and old white man wants to vilify, we could never understand that. That's because there are complications and things that went wrong that no one should ever be told of. Do miracles happen? Yes, miracles happen. Miracles also don't happen. So for everybody out there who's saying, well, miracles happen, well, I don't know what I would do, but I do know this. The woman who is married, who has kick-ass health coverage, who can afford whatever the health care is going to be after this baby is born, may be making a totally different decision than the single woman who can't afford a full-time nurse for her newborn baby. The bottom line is this is just going back to vilifying women. And anyone who thinks that this is not about women losing rights as humans and becoming second-class citizens, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you truly don't believe that, but here's what I can say. If you feel the need to unfriend me, if you feel the need to unfollow me, if you feel the need to say whatever you want to say about me, you go right ahead. Because I respect your right to do so. Let me close by saying this one last thing about those of us who are pro-choice, who are so firmly pro-choice, who have built this hill and will die on this hill and are ready to stand and fight in any way, shape, or form that we absolutely need to. Pro-choice does not mean that we are for murdering babies. Pro-choice does not mean that we have had an abortion. Pro-choice does not mean it's the decision I would make. Pro-choice does not mean that we believe abortion is a substitute for birth control. Pro-choice means I believe it is your right to make the decision for your life. Thank you so much for jumping into today's conversation. We truly appreciate having you here on this journey with us. Don't forget, if you liked today's episode and the conversation, go ahead and like this episode and leave us a review. If you didn't love it, that's okay. Don't worry about leaving anything.